Plants are one of the most essential living organisms on Earth. They are immensely beneficial to both animals and human beings. They produce oxygen, which is crucial for the survival of living organisms. Trees provide shelter to animals and are also known for their medicinal benefits. A plant has many parts. Different parts perform different functionalities. The part of the plant that appears above the ground level is called the shoot system, while the part of the plant which lies underneath the soil is called the root system. And now, let's talk about the roots. Roots are super important for plants since they keep them anchored in the ground. They help absorb water and nutrients, produce growth hormones, and store food for later. Plus, the root tip is protected by a special covering called the root cap. In dicots, the radicle elongates to form primary roots that grow in soil and develop lateral roots. Monocots tend to have many short-lived roots instead of a single primary root. Some plants, like the banyan tree, produce adventitious roots that from various parts of the plant, not just the radicle. Plants in swampy areas may have upward growing roots, called pneumatophores, to access oxygen.
Imagine a world without stem, trees would collapse, flowers couldn't bloom, and we wouldn't have potatoes and ginger in our kitchens. Sounds strange, right? Well, today, let's explore why stems are the backbone of the plants. What is a stem? Think of a plant stem like a straw and a backbone combined. It stands tall, supports the leaves, and carries water and nutrients from the roots to every part of the plant. Just like how our spine keeps us upright and our veins transport blood. This stem could ihohold na ito leaves, flowers, kini fruit, keeping the plant stable and reaching for sunlight. Without it, plants would flop. Agkuyot da, kasla di overcook na spaghetti. Kaslamat lang ito yung nga water pipe. This stem moves water and minerals from the roots to the leaves so that the plant can stay healthy. At damot lang stem like cactus stem. Do photosynthesis. They're like built-in solar panels for plants. Have you ever eaten potatoes or ginger? Surprise, they're actually underground stems, storing energy for the plant. Some plants grow new plants from stems like strawberries, sending out runners. It's like plants clotting themselves. Fun fact, did you know that bamboo can grow up to 35 inches in a single day? That's faster than some of us can finish our homework. So no, maminsan nga makikita kayo iti tree, flower, kini po potato. Remember, stems are doing all the hard work behind the scenes. Without them, plants wouldn't survive. Leaves. Have you ever thought about how leaves do so much work for plant? They don't just sit there looking green. They are like plant's kitchen, air conditioner, and transport system in all one. What are leaves? Leaves are one of the most important parts of a plant. They contain chlorophyll, the green pigment that helps plants absorb sunlight and turn into a food through photosynthesis. What are the function of leaves? Green leaves take in sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to make food through photosynthesis. Without this, plants wouldn't survive, and neither would we. Leaves release extra water through tiny pores called stomata, a process known as transpiration. It helps keep the plant cool. Leaves are made up of three main parts. First, petiole, the stalk that holds the leaf and keeps it exposed to air. Next, leaf base, the part where the leaf connects the stem. Lastly, lamina, leaf blade, the flat part of the leaf that contains vein and veinlets which provide support and transport nutrients. Moyo ba nga iti banana leaves kat may nga pinaka-biggest leaves in the world? They can grow up to 9 feet long and even used as a natural plates in some countries. Kasla ko iti budol fight. Gamgamitin tayo iti banana leaves no mangmangan tayo. So tiyos usaran tayo nga plate. Leaves may seem simple, but they are packed with important functions that keep plants alive. The next time you see leaf, take a closer look. You might notice the veins, midrib, and even how it moves to catch sunlight.
Let's move on to germination. Germination is the process by which a plant grows from a seed into a seedling. Seeds remain dormant until conditions are favorable for germination. All seeds need water, oxygen, and optimal temperature to germinate. When a seed is exposed to the proper conditions, water and oxygen are taken in through the seed coat. During germination's early stage, seeds soak up water quickly, causing them to swell and soften their coats in the right temperature. This process is called imbibition. It kicks off growth by activating enzymes. The seeds also start breathing and producing proteins while breaking down stored food during this initial phase of germination. By rupturing of the seed coat, radicle emerges to form a primary root. The seed starts absorbing underground water. After the emerging of the radicle in the plumule, shoot starts growing upwards. In the final stage of seed germination, the cell of the seeds become metabolically active, elongates and divide to give rise to the seedling.
The factors affecting seed germination, or in simple terms, what makes a seed grow. There are two types of factors, external factors and internal factors. Let's start with the external factors. First, we have water. The right amount of water is important for a seed to grow. If there's not enough water, the seed stays asleep and won't sprout. But if there's too much water, the seed might drown and rot. Next, temperature. The warm or coldness of the environment affects how fast the seed grows. If the temperature is just right, the seed's metabolism will speed up, helping it sprout faster. And lastly, oxygen. Seeds needs oxygen to breathe and get energy for growth. If there isn't enough oxygen, the seed won't develop properly. Let's move on to internal factors, or the things inside the seed that affects its growth. One factor is the seed coat. This is the hard outer covering of the seed which sometimes blocks water and air from entering, delaying germination. Some seeds also have an immature embryo, meaning the inside of the seed is not fully developed yet, so it won't grow right away. Certain seeds contain plant growth regulators, which are chemicals that prevent them from sprouting until the right conditions are met. And finally, some seeds simply need more time to germinate than others. This brings us to seed dormancy. This is when a seed does not germinate even when all the right conditions are present. It's like the seed is still sleeping and needs a specific trigger to start growing.
Plants may not move around like animals, but they have their own unique way of reproducing. Plants can reproduce in two ways, sexually and asexually. Asexual mode, new plants are obtained without producing seeds. Sexual mode, new plants are obtained from seeds. Now I will explain the different type of asexual reproduction. First is vegetative propagation. Reproduction occurs through the vegetative parts of plant, such as stems, leaves, and buds. These plants take less time to grow. They are exact replicas of their parent, as they are produced from a single parent. Second is budding. Small bulb-like projections called buds arise from these cells. These buds gradually enlarge while remaining attached to their parent cell. Eventually, the buds detach from the parent cell. The detached buds mature and grow into new yeast cells. These new yeast cells in turn produce more buds. This process continues, forming multiple new yeast cells within a short period of time. Third is fragmentation, a form of asexual reproduction where an organism splits into fragments. Each fragment grows into an independent individual, enables rapid multiplication in short time. Fragments generate missing parts, efficient in favorable conditions. Fourth is spore formation. Spores in the air, microscopic reproductive units present in the air. Protective coat. It shields spores from low humidity, high temperatures, and harsh conditions. Dormancy. Remain inactive until conditions improve. Germination. Under favorable conditions, spores grow into new organisms. And lastly, micropropagation. Explant collection. A small plant part is taken and sterilized. Calyus formation. Placed in a nutrient medium, the cells divide to form a calyus. Differentiation. The calyus is transferred to another medium for shoot and root formation. Plantlet development. Complete plantlets form. Field transfer. Plantlets are acclimatized and move to the fields.
Moving on, let's talk about how plants reproduce sexually. To start us off, flowers are the reproductive organs of plants wherein the reproductive parts are divided into two categories. First we have the stamen, which is the male reproductive part, and then we have the pistil, which is the female reproductive part. Some flowers have only one of these reproductive parts, while others have both. If a flower has either the stamen or the pistil, it is called a unisexual flower. An example of this is the papaya flower, which has separate male and female flowers. If a flower contains both the stamen and the pistil, it is called a bisexual flower. A great example of this is the rose, which can produce both male and female gametes within the same flower. Unisexual flowers rely on cross-pollination for reproduction, while bisexual flowers can undergo both self-pollination and cross-pollination. So, the stamen consists of the anther and the filament, wherein the anther produces pollen grains, which contain the male gametes needed for fertilization, while the pistil consists of three parts. First we have the stigma, which is the sticky surface that captures the pollen, and then we have the style, which is the tube that connects the stigma to the ovary, and lastly, we have the ovary, which contains the ovules, where the female gametes or eggs are formed. For fertilization to happen, pollen must reach the pistil. This process is now called the pollination. It occurs when pollen is transferred from the anther into the stigma. There are two types of pollination. First we have the self-pollination, wherein the pollen lands on the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant. And then we have the cross-pollination, wherein the pollen reaches the stigma of a flower on a different plant of the same species. Pollination can be carried out in different ways. By insects like bees and butterflies, which are attracted to colorful flowers and nectar. By wind, which carries pollen from one plant to another, like in corn and wheat. By birds, such as hummingbirds, which pollinate bright, tube-shaped flowers. Once pollen reaches the stigma, a pollen tube forms and carries the male gamete to the ovule inside the ovary. This is what we call now the fertilization, which occurs when the male gamete fuses with the female gamete, forming a zygote. This zygote eventually develops into an embryo, which is protected inside a seed. So after fertilization, the ovary develops into a fruit and the ovules become seeds, which contain the growing embryo inside a protective cover.
Photosynthesis is the process where plants and some bacteria turn sunlight into energy. Think of it as their way of making food. They take sunlight, water from the soil, and carbon dioxide from the air. So, iti plants kanukat agal-ala da iti food da, iti sunlight, iti water from the soil, iti dagdaga, ken carbon dioxide nga reproduce iti humans. Inside their leaves, these ingredients are used to produce sugar, which gives them energy to grow, and at the same time, they release oxygen as a byproduct, which is what we breathe. So, kasla agpalpalitan laeng, iti plants makasapol da iti carbon dioxide nga iproproduce iti human, then iti plants agi-produce da iti oxygen nga masapol iti humans. Ngam hanlaeng nga plants iti makapagkuha iti photosynthesis. Some bacteria like cyanobacteria and purple bacteria also use photosynthesis. Instead of leaves, they absorb they have special pigments that help them absorb sunlight and make glucose for energy. This shows that photosynthesis is not just important for plants, but also for other organisms that help keep life on Earth balanced. So dito yung kinanakatay nga, hanla ang plants makapag photosynthesis. Mausulay isunay ti other organisms sa photosynthesis happens in the chloroplast, tiny parts inside leaves with chlorophyll, which absorbs sunlight. Na-discuss mo lang iti last semester iti. Diyan bayawan tayo nga iti chlorophyll kat agab absorb iti sunlight. Leaves also have stomata, small pores that let carbon dioxide in and oxygen out. So dito yung kaslarwangan iti plant nga mangguyod ay mangpaunag iti carbon dioxide ken agiparwar iti oxygen. With sunlight, plants turn water and carbon dioxide into sugar. So dito yung talo nga masapol. Sunlight, yung water from the soil and carbon dioxide. G water and carbon dioxide agbalin to isuna nga glucose and fructose nga mangted iti energy iti plant tapno agtubo. This sugar also help form starch and cellulose, which make plant cell wall strong. In short, photosynthesis is how plants make their food, grow, and release oxygen. Photosynthesis process. Plants make their own food using sunlight through photosynthesis, as I discussed earlier. This process happens in two main phases. May dalawa tayong phases na kung saan nangyayari yung photosynthesis. Number one is dependent reaction. This phase needs sunlight. Itong phase na to ay nangangailangan daw ng sunlight, ng ilaw, galing sa araw. Then, the chloroplast in leaves capture light energy. So, ito yung makakatay nga, the chloroplast iso ti mga ala iti sunlight. So, ti makatch. In leaves capture light energy, which is used to create ATP and NADPH, which are the energy molecules that fuel the next phase. Ano yung next phase? The light-independent reaction, or the cycle. This phase doesn't need direct sunlight. It uses the energy molecules from the first phase to convert carbon dioxide into glucose. So, dito yung kanukot nga makasapol iti direct sunlight. Di ususaran na lang kat di energy molecules nga addayan inti mo na nga phase ken kasla i-convert na DJ iti carbon dioxide kasla usaran na ulit tapno magbalin nga glucose, which plant used for growth. So, nun nga ti addayan ti first phase, kasapulan mo lang ni second phase. Tapno, syempre, phase 1, phase 2, hindi makakapag si phase 2 kung for further explanation, ito na yung process nung photosynthesis sa magkabilang phase. First phase, light-dependent reaction. Ito yung process na nangyayari sa thylakoid membranes of the chloroplast when sunlight is available. Then, water molecules split into oxygen, hydrogen ions, and electrons. Magi-split yung H2O sa O2 and hydrogen plus hydrogen and electrons. Then the electrons travel through the electron transport chain, generating ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, and NADPH, which store energy for the next stage. Ito na yon. Then oxygen is released as a byproduct, yung palitan. Then next is the light-independent reaction, which is the Calvin cycle. This occurs in the stroma of the chloroplast and does not need sunlight. ATP and NADPH from the ATP and NADPH from the light-dependent reaction provide the energy to convert carbon dioxide, which is CO2, into glucose. This cycle runs in multiple steps, ultimately forming sugars that the plant uses for growth and energy. Yung glucose, ang magiging, kakasabi ko lang kanina, yun yung magiging parang energy ng plant para tumubo siya. Parang sa mga humans, yun naman yung kinakain natin pagkain na nagiging parang sa taba. Yung fats ng isang tao is nai-store, then yun yung nagiging energy natin kapag nakukulangan tayo sa energy. Kapag kulang yung meron tayong energy, ang iba-burn ng katawan natin is yung fats, which is parang ganun siya sa plants. Then next is glucose formation and storage. The glucose produced in the Calvin cycle can be used immediately for energy or stored as starch for later use. Ito yung sinasabi ko, na pwede nating magamit yung, as humans, pwede natin magamit yung fats as stored energy. And same lang sila sa plants. Then plants use the stored energy to grow, repair, and develop new tissues. Pero sa plants is either nagagamit nila kaagad yun. Then this stored energy also feeds animals and humans when they consume plants. So parang yung stored na energy ng plants at kapag nakain yun ng animal or human is magbe-benefit yung nakakain nun kasi nutritious yung lanong plant. Then this converts sunlight into food, also oxygen, that's of life on Earth. And dun nagtatapos yung process ng photosynthesis.
Growth refers to the increase in mass and size of a body or organs. It typically occurs through the multiplication of cells and an increase in intracellular substance. Development refers to the physiological and functional maturation of the organism. It also refers to the increase in capacity and skill to effectively function. So, to easily understand, growth is simply paglaki ng katawan or yung organ natin. For example, yung pagtangkad mo mula grade 1 hanggang ngayon ay isang sign ng growth. On the other hand, development naman ay tungkol sa functional changes o skills na nade-develop habang tayo ay lumalaki. Let's go on to the next slide. Growth pattern and morphogenesis. Growth takes place all through the lifetime, but variably. In the case of humans, the rate of growth is faster until maturity. After attaining maturity, growth is gradual and slows down before it completely ceases. Morphogenesis is the process where an organism is shaped by embryological factors such as the differentiation of cells, tissues, and the development of organs and subsequent organ systems according to the genetic blueprint of a particular organism. Ang growth, tulad ng sinabi dito, ay nangyayari sa buong buhay natin, pero hindi pa lang mabilis. Mas mabilis ang paglaki natin during childhood and teenage years, pero pagdating ng adulthood, unti-unti nang mabagal. Types of growth. Number 1 is primary growth. Increase in length due to cell division in the apical meristem. Number 2 is secondary growth. Increase in diameter due to secondary meristem. So ito yung paglapad ng tree trunk o yung stem ng plant. Number 3 is vegetative growth. Formation of leaves, branches, and stems before flowering. And the last type of growth is reproductive growth. Formation of flowers and fruits. Fun fact, alam niyo na ba na ang mga puno ng nara ay may secondary growth kaya tumatagal ng daang taon at lumalaki ng sobrang liit. Plants can keep growing all their lives thanks to special regions called meristems that can divide and create new cells. Ang mga halaman, unlike humans, can grow forever. Dahil sa special regions na tinatawag na meristems, dito nangyayari ang continuous cell division na nagpapahaba at nagpapalapad sa halaman. Ways to measure plant growth. 1 is dry weight. Number 2 is counting cells. And number 3 is fresh weight or yung volume. During the formative phase of growth, growth is dominated by cell division. Cell division leads to a rise of new daughter cells from pre-existing parent cells. Plant cells divide by the process of meiosis, where identical cells are created. It is carried out in 2 steps. Number 1 is the division of nucleus or karyokinesis, while number 2 is the division of cytoplasm or cytokinesis. In higher plants, the division of cells begin in the meristematic region. Sa phase na to, ang cell division ang pinaka-aktibo. Ang karyokinesis ay ang pag-divide ng nucleus, while cytokinesis naman ang pag-divide ng cytoplasm. Kaya pag napulot ang dahon o sanga ng halaman, nagre-regrow ito dahil active ang cell division sa meristematic region ng plant. Cell enlargement and differentiation. During this stage, the newly formed cells grow in size, which results in the growth of the tissues and organs. The growth in the size of the cells is due to various factors such as absorption of water, formation and growth of vacuoles, and the thickening of the cell wall. After cell division, next step na ang cell enlargement and differentiation, kung saan ang cells ay lumalaki at nagiging specialized. Factors affecting cell growth: water absorption, growth of vacuoles, and thickening of the cell wall. Cell maturation. During the maturing process, the cells take a definite shape and structure for a specialized function. This growth leads to the differentiation of the tissues. The development includes all the changes that take place during the life cycle of a plant. There are different pathways followed by plants in response to the environment and form different structures. The leaves of a young plant have different structures as compared to the mature plant. Development is the sum of total growth and differentiation. It is regulated by extrinsic and intrinsic factors. Growth, differentiation, and development are closely related events. A plant cannot develop if the cells do not grow. So differentiation is when cells change to become different types, while some mature cells can go back to a less specialized state in a process called the differentiation, typically seen when tissues are injured. In these cases, parenchyma cells help in repairing the wound since they are still undifferentiation. Development ay ang kabuoang pagbabago ng halaman mula seed hanggang mamulaklak at mamunga. So differentiation naman ang cells change into different types like xylem and phloem cells. The differentiation is the cells return to a less specialized state to repair wounds. So one situational example of this is kapag naputol ang puno, ang parenchymal cells ang nag-a-activate para i-repair ang damaged tissue.